That's right. Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we find ourselves on the cusp of Disney's big venture to the world of streaming, we, even courting a war in the process, we thought it'd be nice to stay up to date on the ever growing catalog and rule on what's a must or a bust on Disney Plus. All right, I'm never going to do that again.
God.
Wow. All right.
So joining
Last
us is
time
not.
we had a chance to talk Owen Wilson for a while, so.
Right, so joining us is not Owen Wilson, clearly, but
Oh,
special
God.
guest. We have a special guest in our panel today.
Yep.
It's the
Is-
resplendent Rohit Dar. Say hello to the folks, Rohit.
Hi, everyone. I'm glad to join the SpoilerCast for Loki. This is probably now I'm counting, this is the fourth video or the fourth podcast for the Imagineers. So just glad to be part of the conversation.
Happy to have you.
Yeah, we love this guy.
Okay, so guys, what we're going to be doing here is pretty simple. It's we've been doing this with pretty much all of the big mainstay Disney Plus shows. So Mandalorian 1 and 2, and then all of the MCU stuff, where after all the season is dropped, we go over it one more time and basically give our final thoughts and reflect on the episodes as a whole. So kind of like go through each episode individually. So with that in mind, let's start with some thesis statements, because it's been a while. It's been a couple of weeks since we reviewed the last episode. Let's see, is someone doing a Nick Offerman? Is Super Billy? That was my very bad Owen Wilson impression.
Yeah.
But happy to have you regardless, Super Billy. Happy to have you. Okay, so my thesis on this show, I'll jump right off the bat. I really like it. I don't. It's honestly like just one misstep away from me loving it. I like rewatching the season all the way through. I was hoping the Kang stuff would land with me a little bit more, and it just doesn't. I'm excited for the implications of Kang moving forward. I just think, I don't know. I just think structurally speaking, that final episode was just really weak sauce. It was just kind of like, I don't know. To me, it kind of killed a lot of the momentum of the rest of the season, like in its tracks. But getting there, it's definitely a case where I feel like getting there. Wow, my apologies. No, you don't have to be sorry, Super Billy. It's all good.
No, he's doing the wow, Tiki.
Oh,
Like,
right. Wow. Yeah. So I really feel like Loki season 1 is a case of like the journey was more satisfying than the destination. I really feel like the series peaked in episode 4 and 5. I feel like both those episodes were great for different reasons. Episode 4 was great as like a TVA-centric episode with a lot of intrigue and very much some shades of The Last Jedi, for better or for worse, depending on where you land on that movie. And then episode 5 was just an all-out, just like, let's go crazy with the concept. Let's introduce as many variants as possible. Loved episode 5. Really great stuff there. And then episode 6 is just kind of, it's just kind of like a variant of Kang being goofy for 30 minutes. And then like a little tussle with with Sylvie at the end. And I don't know, guys. I'm still not in love with the fact that I've kind of said this before, and I'll say it again. This is like one of my big takeaways with the finale and with the cliffhanger, especially why I'm not satisfied, especially with the cliffhanger. Why the cliffhanger kind of left me cold. Like we spent 5 episodes building up to what might be one of the most satisfying and warranted man hugs in the history of the MCU between Mobius and Loki. And then it's like suddenly we're like back to square one on that relationship. And that was like the note we go out on. So I don't know. For me, I'm very mixed on the show. I think it has great moments. I think it's got a great aesthetic. I'm living for Miss Minutes. I want a Miss Minutes plush. I have decided on that. I am going to obtain one. I really do think it's probably the. I feel like this is a weird case of like it's got the highest highs of the 3 MCU shows so far, but it might also have a couple of the lowest lows. So I would say it's kind of smack dab in the middle. I like it a little bit more than Falcon and Winter Soldier overall. But I still don't think it's quite as good as WandaVision, honestly. I think WandaVision kind of like held its own just a little bit more narratively. That's kind of where I'm leaning on it after a rewatch. All right, Rohit, would you like to go?
I guess I don't want to be intentionally contrary to sort of your thesis point, because this is sort of my genuine belief in regards to this show. But I think overall, of the 3 Disney Plus shows that we have all watched, I would say this is my favorite, and I think this is the best show in terms of it being thematically consistent throughout these 6 episodes. And the ending, I understand sort of where you're coming from, but what I appreciated with the ending was how sort of low level and not as like actiony and formulaic as someone argued the last episode of WandaVision was at certain points, and with the episode of Falcon the Winter Soldier, where I really appreciate the last episode was more of a conversation, and I really like the characterization of this version of Kang being who he is, and sort of putting Loki and Sylvie off step, and that sort of hard relationship with this variant, and the way things end. There's such great implications. But I think what I really appreciate about the show is this whole thematic notion of change when you see the strings across the universe. How does one have the capacity or the will to change and be a different person if your story is written out or your path to be determined, and the angst and existential conflict that comes with it? And having a character like Loki, who is an agent of chaos, deal with this sort of oppressive order of the cosmos and growing and becoming a better person from it, it's such a rich and tight journey. And so I think for me, I really like Loki. Out of the 3, I'd not to say I hated the other 2 shows. I really like them. I'd say in terms of ranking, it'd be WandaVision 3, Falcon the Winter Soldier 2, and then Loki is like the top. And I think where things end off, I'm really excited to see where season 2 goes and see sort of more where Loki develops beyond just sort of him developing compassion and sympathy for other people.
All right, Dragon.
Yeah, so I think the strength of the Disney Plus MCU shows has been the season-long character arc and the post-Endgame, status quo adjustment as the bridge into Phase 4 overall. It's kind of what the theme has been for these 3 shows. Think about it, like we've kind of approached like 3 subjects so far, roughly. You have a grief with WandaVision. You got kind of progress with Falcon Winter Soldier. You got self-reflection and or self-acceptance, probably more accurately, with Loki. I love how we explored Loki as the hero of his own story and played into the massive ego of that character in some really fun and diverse ways, in which we kind of physicalized it with all the different variants, and how he's kind of playing off of himself and being inspired by himself in a really humbling journey that it goes on through the course of the 6 episodes. It's kind of like, looking back on it, it's sort of like, okay, what if we condensed like an Iron Man or Thor's arc across 3 phases, but for Loki in 6 episodes, given the crazy scope of time that we explore, which I found really interesting. He's like, yeah, we really catch Loki up to like the kind of the Infinity Saga progress that he incurred, like roughly in 6 episodes. I'm not saying we're necessarily all the way there, but I like that we kind of took the stock Avengers, kind of bad guy Loki, and we really kind of put him through his paces in really, really great and kind of really interesting ways. And it was a very fun ride. I think it left us all very hyped for Doctor Strange 2 and the next Ant-Man movie for sure. It's I really think there's much merit in ranking the shows at this point because we only have 3 of them, and I mean, look, I mean, if I were to, it's like picking your darlings here. I mean, I have to say my favorite show is Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I have to. I don't like how the Carly stuff paid off, but I that ending just it gets me in the feels the way I wanted it to. So that's where that is. And I think WandaVision.
You know what?
Probably,
honestly, I really think that Rohit, you absolutely don't need to apologize for having contradictory opinions from me. How dare you? I think it's cool that all 3 of us kind of like. I think we can all agree we, at the very least, we really like all 3 of these shows.
Yeah, I think we have 3 winners for sure.
Yeah. So like, I think it's cool that all 3 of us kind of like landed on a different number 1 overall. So honestly, I always kind of like enjoy conversations with different perspectives like that. So I'm totally down. I know I'm I want to just emphasize, like, I liked Loki a lot. Like, there's there's definitely more good in the show than bad, to be sure. There's just a couple missteps for me personally and my personal taste that I have a hard time kind of looking over. But I still think it's a very, very solid show and probably one of the more intriguing things Marvel's done. I don't know. Maybe it's just me getting older, and I'm not really down for cliffhangers as much as I once was. I just want resolution, and that cliffhanger was just kind of like, oh god. So it just the entire season is just not self-contained.
But didn't you
at all.
used to live for the cliffhangers, though, Tiki? I mean, wasn't it like the whole thing with Lost, if I'm right?
Dragon Lost was a long time ago.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, but it was a lot.
I was literally in high school.
Yeah, but I mean every season was a cliffhanger, though. It was a lot of seasons.
In all fairness, considering how Lost ended, I would be very much in the Tiki camp of being a little bit guarded and cautious about cliffhangers.
But I mean, it's not like here's the difference, though. In the age now where like all these good shows are getting canceled after 1 or 2 seasons when there's like a 5-year plan, it's like, hey, at least we know there's another half coming. At least 2, if not more, depending on how it performs. And we know it's going to fit in somewhere. At least there's a plan here.
So you should describe Greg Weisman's
I'm saying we're not having fickle networks here. They're going to take it out like, hey, Greggy's got a plan. They're like, nope. It's like, hey, Spectacular Spider-Man Season 3. We love the first 2 seasons. Nope. Like, we know, okay, so Disney Plus, there's no way they're not going to do, after they tease us, like, hey, Loki Season 2 is coming. We knew this practically before the season started. We have it literally stamped on the end of the screen. You're like, guys, don't worry, it's going to be more. We're good.
Yeah, but I think to Tiki's point, I think had Loki just been a standalone, not have like a Season 2 plan, it was just a one and done in the same way as, say, WandaVision and or the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I think then like the way the show would end, it would be more to sort of what Tiki is looking for, which is a resolution. And I think
all I want is Mobius on the jet ski, man. I'm a man of simple tastes.
So this is what I'm saying, Rohit. He mainly wants the second half just to see Mobius get on the jet ski. That's the main reason.
But I'm saying you could. I don't know. I think you could have introduced Kang and still had a resolution.
I mean, that's one. Anyway, it's like so. Even if we do have Kang and a resolution, we're not really getting the Loki resolution because there's not enough episodes. I don't think, because I think we might need that second. Either that or a longer first season. So that's kind of like seems like we've kind of.
All right. Well, let's just dive right into the episodes. Super Billy's. He's kind of on my side here, so good to have some backup. He says the series was already having momentum problems for me prior to the finale. I see where you're coming from, Rohit, but the main problem with the show is that most everything was rushed. I agree with that to an extent. It depends on the episode, really. We'll get into it. Loki's transformation happens way too quickly, and it's probably a good thing this negative Nancy is not on the stream. Well, Super Billy, I am usually said negative Nancy, as Dragon very well knows, so don't worry about it. I'm happy to have your feedback.
All
right. Let's just dive right into it. Episode 1, Glorious Purpose.
So this is a very well constructed pilot, I feel.
Yeah, I feel like episodes 1 and 2 really kind of go together as like a duology of just setting up the TVA and sort of just episode 1 sets up the world, episode 2 sets up the mystery, episode 3 sets up the characters, episode 4 sets up kind of like the conflict. I don't know. I feel like this show does like it has a decent pace to it as far as kind of like laying the groundwork goes.
Yeah, I like that no episode is alike. Where this one's the very much essentially your pilot, then episode 2 is the the procedural, and then we don't do the procedural like as the whole series. Like okay, like a lot of people thought going in this was going to be a bit of a time procedural, which then might get a little more Loki focused. But no, we
basically like Time Squad starring Loki.
Don't tease me with that, T, because I love Time Squad. But yes. Anyway, so
Mark Hamill's just back as a live-action Larry the Robot.
God, that'd be awesome. Anyway,
just randomly like, hey, I'm part of the MCU too.
So essentially, this episode, Loki, he reevaluates and redefines his glorious purpose. Just kind of going into the episode's namesake after a sit down with both Mobius and his visit to the TVA. So the TVA itself, guys, how are we feeling about it?
Do either of you know anything about liminal spaces?
I don't think so.
Rohit, does that ring a bell for you at all?
I feel like I've heard the term. Is it a reference to the architecture style?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because the TVA like headquarters, it's based on like a hotel in Georgia, and that's the same hotel that was in Spider-Man: Homecoming, I believe.
Oh, that's interesting. But yeah, I think this show is kind of like a mix. The TVA, at least, is a mix of like, it's got like the Terry Gilliam kind of like mundane sci-fi going on, and then I feel like the setting is also like it's got a touch of liminal spaces in there. Now, just I don't want to bore you guys with a whole tangent here, a whole side talk, but basically, in a phrase, liminal spaces are essentially spaces that feel oddly familiar, but you can't quite put your finger on it.
Kind of like a deja vu space.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to put it. Yeah. So like office buildings, airports, stuff like that are very common liminal spaces just because they're designed like there's a lot of different spaces like that have like a very similar layout to them, so you could be in a completely different state and still be in a space that very much kind of gives you a sense of deja vu, like you've been here before. Does that make sense?
No, it does, and we do kind of set up the whole time works differently in the TVA, so maybe there's like an evocative kind of thing there built into it, like the rounded kind of familiarity. I don't know, maybe you're onto something.
And then also there's Miss Minutes.
Yes,
yeah,
there is, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, it's less deja vu, and I think it's more like any place, like an office building or any airport or whatever. Like it's same. It's there's no variety, so you just kind of are in this lull of just oh, this is just your everyday life. And I think that kind of speaks to TVA, like with that liminal space, things that are familiar. You're just sort of mesh in the bureaucracy and the everyday. Like these just people that look like office workers, but they're dealing with space and time.
Yeah, so that's the cool thing about the TVA. It's just it's this mundane bullpen of an office, but yet it is the greatest power in the universe that dwarfs the Infinity Saga as a whole, which is just crazy.
The stones in the drawers.
Yep, and use them as paperweights, and just also we set the tone wonderfully in the episode with the intake process and everything. I don't want to rehash all the cool stuff there because we already talked about that in the lead up, but it sets a very Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy tone.
That's another good comparison for sure.
But yes, Miss Minutes, voiced by the lovely Tara Strong, did an excellent job with the seemingly Mr. DNA mascot, but actually has a little bit of a sinister edge by the end.
I gotta be honest, Miss Minutes might be my favorite thing in the whole show.
Yeah, Miss Minutes got some honey. The only
reason I say that over Mobius is because you know how I feel like Mobius kind of got a little bit of the shaft in the finale.
You're not wrong.
Whereas Miss Minutes, like holy shit, she has a moment in the finale.
That she does. Also, I mean, the lead up, like that again, episode 5 really does stand because Miss Minutes gets a great
Episode
scene
5
in
is
that
great too with
yeah.
her. Yeah.
But yeah, and also again, like the thing looking back when you rewatch the season as a whole with all the parts, it's that she's not only just the Mr. DNA inspired mascot, giving a little orientation, basically telling us about the multiverse of war origin and everything, but the mouthpiece and spy for the big boss. Like all that time, she's there reporting back to the big man, telling him what's going on.
Yeah, so I really do think overall she's my favorite character. And I really want a plushie of her. I really want.
I've seen gobs of shirts with her on it, Teague. I don't know if I've seen a plush yet. They will.
I'll take a shirt.
They have a Funko. Here's the thing. They have a Ravonna Funko with a tiny little Miss Minutes in there.
Nah, I don't want a Ravonna.
Let me get. Anyway, so
Dragon, I want a Miss Minutes. All right, I don't want a Ravonna pop with Miss Minutes. I want Miss Minutes.
All right, fine.
Let me make that clear.
Right, Funko. Don't tell me.
I'm just waiting for the Miss Minutes hologram to show up on Avengers Campus.
Oh my god, dude! Yeah, the Miss Minutes needs to do some sort of safety spiel or something. That'd be.
It's great. It's a good idea.
Hey, y'all. Put your hands, arms, and legs inside the car at all times. You don't want something bad to happen now, do you?
Yeah, nice.
I was thinking like something more mundane. It's like if there's like announcements of times or like how long a ride will last, Miss Minutes will just have like pop up, and then you'll see the minute and hour hand moving.
Oh my god!
Of course, getting to Loki of it all, I love how Loki is trying to point blame at the Avengers as he's kind of acting as his own lawyer. You get to see Hiddleston, really relishing in like the classic 2012 Loki. In the first half of the season, like the first 3 episodes, he's full on just like before the arc really kind of kicks in for him in terms of him kind of like being opened by the Sylvie relationship. He's just very. He's just kind of relishing the fun and like, man, actually you should be going after the Avengers.
To see like classic Avengers Loki where he's very much in that sort of like mustache twirling villain mode.
Yeah, like remember all those Loki evil smiles after like he's removing eyeballs and he's he's doing
catching
all sorts
arrows.
Yeah, that guy.
Those people.
Yep. So we spoke a lot of Mobius. So the Mobius and Loki dynamic. My God, looking back,
as much as I love Miss Minutes, Mobius and Loki is like easily like the heart of the show, to be sure.
Unequivocally. Looking back, something occurred to me with the Mobius Loki dynamic. Looking back at the season, is that I wonder. Tell me if this sounds crazy, guys. I wonder if Mobius is living vicariously through Loki, which is why he's a fan, because this is a guy who works for the TVA. He looks back on this case of this Loki character, and you know what? It's like this is the guy he revels in the DB Cooper shenanigans, and honestly, I think beyond like the cool factor of moments like that, he kind of got engrossed in the story of like his arc in the MCU of the main timeline of like, oh my god, this guy went from such a like a mustache twirly bad guy to having an enduring kind of redemption arc with his brother and everything. And just like wishes like, hey, what if I gave this guy a second bite at the apple that he could be a living version of the Infinity War Loki? Like, what if I gave him that second chance? What if he could be that? So I think that's why he's a fan of Loki and his antics. I'd like to think.
I think that's a better idea than my initial theory that I ran with for too long of like he's got to be a Loki variant. There's no. Okay,
I will tell you this though. I saw a photo, and this photo had Owen Wilson. Here's the thing: they had some photos that didn't end up in the episodes. I don't know if some of them might have been red herrings. I don't know if this was one of them that Leonard creates their theory. So you had Owen Wilson as Mobius giving like a really big kind of Loki smile, which made me think you were right. Like, oh boy, that might actually happen. They had like a picture of Loki on a throne, which they ended up, I believe that was like a big red herring. While he was going into the last episode, you thought he was going to be in the costume again, which did not happen. So some variants of deleted scenes. Who knows? Yeah.
Like those deleted scenes show up in a version of the show that was pruned from the timeline.
Yeah. Oh god, yeah. So yeah, and of course, you know me. My favorite thing about the first episode is the defending your life send up. It's very much defending your life, the Albert Brooks movie, where guy dies and he gets to look over his life, which Loki gets to do here, where he gets to like see all like the greatest hits of Loki and kind of have the really introspective thing here, where we have my favorite gag being, I think I'll have that drink now, and Mobius offers him like the energy drink, like no. So again, we have like the fun energy drink comedy, but then we have like the pathos of learning that his mother dies and Thor: The Dark World. It's really good stuff. And of course, the MVP scene being the him, Loki being the narcissist that he is. He gets inspired by his own arc in the MCU. Like he sees his family losing his father, gaining Thor's trust, then going out on a heroic note against Thanos. Like it's the only thing that's going to get Loki to maybe be on the side of angels. Like I inspired myself. I think Super Billy's got some stuff, Diggy.
Yeah. So let's see. He says, the pilot remains my favorite episode. Loved all the philosophical existential discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Really thought they were going to get to the heart of the themes and explore them fully, but not quite. And then
there's still time, Super Billy. We'll see.
Yeah. The TVA was very 70s sci-fi inspired, which I love. Much of the humor was a detriment, and it didn't. I don't know. I don't quite agree with the humor, but we'll go through it. Hey, Roy?
Sorry, my Wi-Fi just went out for a bit.
Okay.
Right.
It's all bad. It's all good.
Let's see. What was
Owen Wilson's best at playing Owen Wilson, and Owen Wilson is always charming. That's a fact.
You can't go wrong with Owen Wilson. Let's be honest.
Well, you can.
Well, wait, I just undercut the point there, but sure, fine. When Owen Wilson won't do, you always got Luke Wilson.
So to comment in regards to Mobius, what I really appreciate was just how much he just cut through Loki's BS and just really hit on the heart of the matter in regards to sort of Loki being, just a person that while he's experienced pain and suffering, that doesn't justify him taking it out on others. And it is really great for Loki to just like admit to that moral failing and having that opportunity to change.
Yeah, like one of the big takeaways from the first episode is Ravonna and Mobius both, in a way, call out Loki for the fact that you're a supporting player in the Avengers story, and you're the villain that makes them heroic. You're not. This is not your story, and that kind of leads to what I really like about the show as a whole. Where why I really like the pilot as well. For me, my favorite episodes between the first episode and the fifth episode, Super Billy. So the pilot is really good. So I just love that we kind of raise the challenge in the mission statement of the show here, which is Loki, be the hero of your own story. Basically, it's a Cobra Kai challenge for him. Can the villain, you love to hate, have layers and have an arc that you root for? Like, can that happen? It's kind of a little bit of a Cobra Kai kind of thing. I like that.
Okay, can we move on?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 2, the variant. I like this one quite a bit. I don't like the opening.
Really?
I don't know. I believe we had Notarelli on for this, Dragon, and he
no. We had Notarelli on for 5.
Oh,
we had Gulliver on for this one.
Oh well, whoever we had on, I guess it was Gulliver. He really agreed with me about the point I made about the lighting in the opening of this episode. Just I don't know.
He did. No, you're right. He did.
Gulliver was for episode 5, and Notarelli was for episode 2.
But I think this is the best episode as far as the Mobius and Loki dynamic. I really, really love the lunch exposition scene. I love it a lot. I honestly think it's the best Owen Wilson comedy scene in the whole series.
Of course, our I believe our buddy Connor Nielsen, I believe Super Billy and everyone, we know him. We've had him on before. We like to get him in on like when we at least one episode when we do our kind of our little roundabouts here on the MCU shows. Connor pointed out, look, the salad demonstration is hilarious, and I absolutely agree with you, Tiki. And I just love it. It's hilarious, and it's an impractical explanation. we just. It's like Connor has pointed out, like, yeah, if you really think about the example Loki laid out, doesn't really track. But you know what, though? It's like even Loki, even Mobius and Loki call out the fact, like, what is your point with this? Is okay, maybe it's a bad example, but it's with the salad. We call out the impracticality of the salad. So even if it doesn't fully track, it's like he has a point, just not a great example.
Dragon, honestly, I feel like one of the scenes that's kind of been a dividing point for some of our guests has been the Pompeii scene. And, it's like, I'm not going to lie. It's not like it looks like top-tier MCU CGI. It's nothing like Endgame or anything. But, I mean, for what it is on a TV budget, I really appreciate the creativity of the scene. I think Tom Hiddleston's having a ball. I think it's I like the idea behind it. So, I don't know. Just generally speaking, I feel like this episode has a lot going for it. It's got it's got a great final act where we go, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we go further into the future timeline than we've ever been before.
Okay, so technically, we start, this is when we first do it. So we go to 2050 with Roxcar, and then we go to 2077 with Lamentus. So yeah, pretty much. I mean, this is like on Earth, at least, the farthest we've gone on Earth, yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm sorry, Rohit, go ahead.
Writers are just like, we absolutely do not touch 2099 unless we absolutely have to.
Yeah.
Well, people lose their minds of 2099. You didn't do Spider-Man. What gives?
Oh my god, dude.
What if? Okay, this is like a theory that will never happen. But what if we get introduced to Doom in like 2099 and he just travels back into the past to like start up Latveria? And it's sort of a closed loop.
Oh, crazy! I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen. But that sounds a crazy idea, though.
All right.
Yeah. So I want to highlight something so I can get in there somewhere. Because of all the Mobius love, Mark Grunwald. He's the guy who's very much the visual inspiration for Mobius. He was a beloved writer, and I want to say editor at Marvel Comics. This show.
Nice.
He was the guy who created the TVA, and the TVA appeared in Thor. Ergo, your Loki correlation, by the way. And he was also the guy who created U.S. Agent.
Cool.
So, and that's the thing. That's why, like, even though you're right, it's not the strongest start we had to an episode, but the whole Oshkosh, Wisconsin setting. He was from Wisconsin. He had the mustache, and they made Mobius look like him. So there was a lot of love and reverence shown to him in the show. I thought it was a cute little setting of like the Ren Fair in the '80s. So
So by that logic, Blue Dragon, you're saying we're going to get Squadron Supreme in a Disney Plus show in the near future?
I'm not saying that definitively. I mean, there's also talk of like, are we going to get like the the Red? The Red Guard, the Winter Guard? Because we have Red Guardian now in the MCU. I think there's more chance of that but we'll see.
Okay. So I do think the final moments too were really honestly pretty iconic with the way that Sylvie's messing with everyone. I did genuinely, like, at that moment, I did think that Sylvie was a pretty damn good villain. And honestly, I'm not, like, looking back on the show, I'm not entirely sure how I feel about Sylvie. We'll get into it through the episodes. I'm not, like, I think she kind of, like, loses her bite as the episodes go on.
She has a great introduction, though.
It's a great introduction, sure, absolutely.
She bombs the timeline. She basically does a successful version, a timey version of what the Red Skull's plan is in First Avenger. She actually bombed all these different places simultaneously. And
Super Billy brings up the fact that the third act of the second episode is great. As far as cliffhangers go, it's actually more intriguing than the finale, which honestly I agree with.
Because remember, when you had that ending, it felt like this is like a penultimate. This is like penultimate material. Like it's kind of like you want to see where the heck do we go from here. But this is with the structure of things. The first two episodes, like for example, we do a lot of things really right with Loki in the front half, where we end the first episode on the mystery. We nip the mystery runner of these Marvel shows in the butt right up front. We're okay. You think it's going to be like a whole Mephisto thing? No, it's a Loki variant. Then episode 2, we reveal who the Loki variant is.
That King isn't Mephisto Dragon.
Here's the thing I do. So we reveal, at the end of 2, like, okay, it's Lady Loki, and she's done something really, really massive. Now with the Lady Loki thing is now that we've had, like, for the 4th time, this is the 3rd time we've had the 4th, like, it's a girl reveal with our MCU villain. I gotta admit, retroactively looking back on it, like Lady Loki's the best out of those 4 reveals. For sure. We're actually kind of, at least we had like a genuine character there, and we actually did stuff with him. We didn't just do it just for like, it was like the fact of like, well, how can we just make it like different? And there was a practical reason didn't occur to me at the time. It was like, yeah, we made a Lady Loki so Tom Hiddleston we wouldn't have to repeat the Paul Bettany thing again from WandaVision. We're just going to have to act against himself, for 6 episodes. If you
pulled that same shit, like, oh, there's an actor I'm really stoked to work with, guys.
So it's quite clever and practical.
I mean, technically, he did play against himself with the President Loki scene.
No, you're right. That was like one scene, though. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But, I'm just saying.
Technically, it happened.
No, you're right. I'm like, here's the thing. He was just kind of off to the sidelines of that scene.
No, you're really right. Yeah.
So, one other thing, though. Here's one thing to speculate on real quick.
Sure.
When we bomb the timeline, we see all these places that are affected, like Titan, Vormir, Ego, the living planet, Xandar, Halo, all this. I wonder if, I'm not saying they have to do this, given the anthology kind of vibe of it all, but assuming we do canonize What If for, like, Doctor Strange 2 territory, it'd be crazy if this time bombing created What If events.
I think that genuinely is the direction I think we're going in, Dragon. I really do.
I mean, wouldn't that be crazy if, so we reset things with those bombs?
Honestly, I think Kevin Feige is, like, smart enough to know that, like, people aren't... This might be cynical, but, like, people are gonna be more stoked for What If they know there's some sort of canon connection to the rest of the MCU, right? So, like, that's my whole thing, is, like, as far as I'm concerned, the MCU is like one big morphine drip of content, and I'm totally okay with that.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah. So just again, this one thing is, again, Loki and Morbius, again, the whole procedural. I mean, it's really nice seeing these two guys get buddies. They're working a case together, and they're having the big revelations. Like they take the kablooey gum and they correlate with the apocalypse, and they got their man, or in this case, their lady.
All right. So that brings us to episode. I'm sorry, Rohit.
Yeah. I like the touch of Rockstar being just like a thinly veiled Walmart parody. And And you know what? Actually, there's actually a Thor connection, because in the Jason Aaron run of Thor, like, one of the villains is Dario Asher, who becomes the Minotaur and is the CEO of Rockstar. So that might set up like maybe some small story arc that, with Roxa coming into the picture.
Yeah, I mean, we have set up Roxa in the MCU before, so the idea is, like, over the years, it's going to get more powerful, like, kind of like an Amazon. Like, what if Amazon and Walmart teamed up?
God.
It's like, God.
So it would be by and large?
Pretty much, but Roxxon. And again, we know Roxxon's been in shady business.
Roxxon Motor Oil.
Going back to Agent Carter. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So
that brings us to Lamentis. This is definitely the most divisive episode. I gotta say, on a rewatch, it plays a lot better, dude.
I'm inclined to agree, but I still kind of have my quibbles.
It's still one of the weaker episodes of the series, to be sure. Just because I feel like most of the rest of the episodes are fucking crazy. But at the very least, I can definitively say I like this one better than the finale.
Like, again, I want to be clear. It's not a bad episode. For me, it was bottom of the totem pole because it is set up for episode 4. I mean, it does.
I mean, it is set up for episode 4, yeah, but, like, you don't. I feel like it's set up for the rest of the series, though. It's like you don't. I feel like you don't get the Sylvie character arc if you don't have an episode of Slowdown to really build up who she is.
And yet we start the next episode with the Sylvie stuff I needed, though. That's the thing. I get just
Yeah,
kind of
that's
like
a solid point. That's
I
a
get the
solid point.
dynamic in this episode, but I get the stuff I needed. I need the character stuff at
But
the top before.
I don't know. I'm trying to defend it as far as like I really do feel like you need the time for Loki and her to get closer
Oh, you're
because
right about that, TK. I have no compunction with that. You're right. I'm just saying I still think the problem is the bonding is nice, and that's the strength of the episode. But why no direct questions and answers after we just had the first 2 episodes set things up so economically what we need to know, and then this whole episode's like, and
you think it would have just been better if we just had the Sylvie flashback at the beginning of this episode and then kind of went from there?
I mean, either that or just worked into the episode somewhere. If like we got like a direct like kind of question answer, like at least that scene in there somehow. I don't know. I think it would have helped.
Because at this stage, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but like we still don't know exactly if she's like got nefarious purposes in mind or not.
Yeah, not really. We just know she has a beef with the TVA. It's
yeah,
really
exactly.
That for this episode, I think was sort of doesn't make this episode bad, but I think what kind of doesn't make it as much love or as memorable as the other episodes is that like Mobius isn't with Loki, and when Loki and Mobius are together, like that really makes the episode really shine.
It's kismet.
Even though, yeah, and
it's the only episode with zero Mobius. That's absolutely correct.
Yeah, I think at that point it's like episode, whether you like it or not, is sort of Sylvie's thing, and I think how you interpret it or like this episode kind of reflects your overall feeling of Sylvie's character moving forward, because she takes up a lot of screen time with Loki, and so I think maybe in a second season, their emphasis on having, instead of a buddy thing with Loki and Mobius and Loki and Sylvie, you have sort of a trio dynamic with all three of them.
It's possible,
yeah. So, but I think I really do like, the slow pace, and you really sort of get, solid character work from both Hiddleston as Loki and Sophie DiMartino as Sylvie, where they just really, be vulnerable with each other, not do any like particular quips, and not do the typical MCU stuff where it's just like exposition quip or whatever. And this is more just like two people having such significant experiences and sharing just because no one else would even care to experience and want to know what they've got.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think this episode has a lot going for it. Like, we have a great premise, insanely great premise of like a bottle episode sort of thing. We're okay. The two Lokis are stranded on a doomed planet in 2077.
I like the premise. I don't like the fact that we're literally spending the whole time trying to charge a battery.
Yeah, that's the thing.
That's the thing that kind of kills the momentum of the episode for me, is that I'm uninterested in what they're actually doing. You know what I mean?
But we pick up the momentum when we're on like the Snowpiercer influenced train.
The Snowpiercer is cool. I'll give you that.
That's the thing. When we're on that train, we're getting. I think the strength of the Loki season. So with just this season, seeing how they handled the next one, because we're changing directors next season. I don't know if you guys know that or not.
I did hear about that.
So I believe the showrunner hasn't confirmed whether or not he's going to stay on. The director is Kate Herron, by the way, and the showrunner who's also writing Doctor Strange 2, and he's a Rick and Morty writer, Michael Waldron.
Ooh.
So that's the guy who did this, and he's doing Doctor Strange 2. So he's the showrunner. Now, he hasn't said whether or not he's going to stay on, but I guess we'll find out. Regardless, sorry, my point. I'm sorry. Yeah, the dialogue scenes have been really strong. I feel, because again, episode 1 was very much kind of like a therapy session, and and this episode has a really great kind of bonding once they're talking about their upbringings and everything, and having those vulnerable moments together. Like, we learned that Sylvie had an honest relationship with her parents, which allows me to read into that. Okay, so this is fundamentally why she's upset that she was taken away and that she was about to be pruned. Like, she had a really nice life going. Like, she did not have like the secrecy of I'm a frost giant. What?
Yeah.
She didn't have any of that. And my read on the rewatch is that kind of helps me kind of bolster the episode. Is that so? Unlike Loki. This Loki, unlike our Loki, Sylvie is unlike the rest of the Lokis because she embraces the truth rather than, through enchantment. That's where she does. Like, we saw her power at the top of this one, where basically when she enchants people, she shows them what the truth of their backgrounds. Like, she finds other variants. Like, she shows them what their lives were like before they were brainwashed by the TVA, essentially. So she embraces truth, which is so un-Loki-like, which I think is what sets her apart from the rest, ultimately, when you look back on it. So.
But I think the scene, like the flashback, I think what really makes her stand out is that her Nexus event is not her being a girl or a woman. It's more her, at least the way I read that scene, is that she has sort of heroic or compassionate intentions, because when you see her playing, with those like Asgardian toys, she's playing like with Valkyrie toys.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think back to Thor Ragnarok, where like Thor as a kid like fantasized being a Valkyrie and being this heroic, warrior. And when she's brought to the TVA, like she expresses concern for that one guy that's being harassed by the TVA agent. And I think that's sort of an element that, really, this Loki, like, potential to be a heroic person, and that's just not the path that the TVA and by extension, like, he wants for Loki to be.
Yeah, that's an excellent thing, Rohit. I never thought about that. Yeah, maybe that's why she was proven, because she had is like, Lokis can't be heroes, let alone the heroes of their own story. Ergo, she's got.
It's like, I feel like the go-to like thing is like, of course, the gender swap. But yeah, it's like, what if it was something?
Yeah,
more...
I never thought of that. That's an excellent pull, Rohit. That's a great way of looking at it. So, anyway, so we end with a oneer, a really impressive oneer. I mean, we had some great action on the train, people like drunk.
You know what? As far as oneers go, it's all right.
I mean, look, in terms of we're compared to the Netflix show, there's no comparison.
Like, I'm honestly at a point where it's like a oneer just being a oneer in itself isn't gonna just impress me automatically.
The problem I have with the oneer is that the arc did not really pop in the scene. It looked like a building when I know it's like a launch pad.
Yes, exactly.
It looks like we threw a lot at the scene where I don't really know. Like, they just missed it. I didn't see that. Well, before it blew up and everything. But
Dragon, there's a runner in A Quiet Place Part 2 that's maybe like 20 seconds long. It's not super long. But oh my god, it is singed into my skull.
But I love that plan was inspired by Ragnarok, and I like the Ragnarok influence between this and the last episode for kind of finding in the apocalypses and everything. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I mean, I respect what they were doing, and we had some kind of Doctor Strange spectacle, like putting the buildings back and stuff like that. And that is an entirely practical set they were running on, by the way, which looks really impressive. But yeah, it's we just have our. I love the idea that we kind of have like the left turn that we keep having in these episodes. Like, it's kind of a left turn at the end of every episode if you look at it, where like you think it's going one way, they don't get off the planet because they lose. That's their thing.
And we were all predicting like, well, if Mobius doesn't swoop in and save them, then I'm just going to be fucking shocked.
Which transitions us into the next
episode. And lo and behold, episode 4 of the Nexus event, where, what do you know, Mobius swoops in and saves them.
But I mean, we had to see that coming, though, where Mobius is going to have to save their bacons.
All right, in all seriousness, this episode is freaking awesome.
Yeah, it is a great episode, for sure.
I would say, personally, it's my favorite. It's close between 4 and 5, but I think this... Like, 5 has all the spectacle, but this has all the, all the intense character stuff. I mean, in the moment, guys, we did not know we were getting Owen Wilson back for sure. Like, we had a hunch he's probably going to be back, but, we didn't know for sure. So I really do think that Mobius death was genuinely wonderful as far as, like, a shocking moment goes.
Yeah, it was so heartbreaking. I love that this episode. The one thing I was dreading about episode 4 was we're gonna have the whole he's gonna have to earn Mobius's trust back, and it's gonna be a whole thing. But you know what? I felt the pacing of the episode, I think it economized as much as we could and made it compelling. Where it wasn't like we were smart about it. Like Loki did immediately try and tell him like you're a variant. The TVA is lying to you, and then it was like the whole like
it's a germ of an idea, Dragon. I felt like it was really realistic like that. Yeah. It's like we get all the Lady Sif stuff specifically because Mobius thinks Loki is lying, but
Yep, and of course the Lady Sif coming back, which is pretty big because everyone's like,
Awesome,
where's she
awesome.
in Endgame?
I know, right? Seriously.
Yep. So we,
She could have been the frickin' pandering female lineup dragon.
yeah, I think she was busy doing blind. I don't know if she was busy doing blind spot or not at that point. That's why
Okay,
she
in
wasn't around.
retrospect, maybe it was better she wasn't in Endgame.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, again, we continue like Loki's self-reflection in interesting ways, where we have like a whole bunch of himself in the next episode. This episode we do it through Lady Sif. So I like that we keep changing up how we're doing the self-reflection, the self-acceptance thing.
Yeah. For that, that relation, like the way it ends is that Loki admits that he's just afraid of being alone, and that really encapsulates sort of all that he does. Because when you think about it to the first Thor movie, like Frost Giant, he's the only Frost Giant among a family and among an entire kingdom of Asgardians who have grown up viewing Frost Giants as the enemy of their homeland. And Loki having that kind of isolation and sense of alienation, all this sort of mischievousness, this chaos, it's really fundamentally a human being that wants to be recognized and seen, and Loki finding a way in being seen and being recognized, but not having to sort of like hurt people and getting that kind of getting the attention that he craves.
Yeah. When we were on Lamentus, we had a big moment with the Nexus event in question. You look at the episode, like a Nexus event usually is like a big wrinkle or like, an event in the, basically, we have an event in the Timekeepers being exposed. That's kind of what the, I think it's kind of what the episode is. Of course, you have the actual Nexus event, but I think broadly it's a huge event for the show as well. So it's kind of the Nexus event of our 6 episodes. And on that scene, Lamentus, the event in question, it's whether, we have a really nice intimate scene, a real quiet scene, this whole moment of, Loki's lose. We may lose horribly and painfully so, but we don't die. We survive. The idea that Loki's are survivors, and just this honest moment of acknowledgement between 2 liars is enough to be the Nexus event. Or if you're the romantic and you're like the optimist, so if you're like glass half empty, it's like, well, they're not supposed to die on Lamentus, ergo they found them there. There's your Nexus event. So, but yeah.
Like in regards to the Loki surviving, I mean, considering he's the god of mischief, god of chaos, and considering sort of the whole, multiverse being such a just chaotic, like, state of being, I feel like that's also just a reflection of how, like, there's no true order in the cosmos or in existence. It's all chaos. It's all variations or permutations, and Kang, or He Who Remains, is really the biggest liar in trying to impose order, trying to make, things, flow in this sacred timeline.
Right. Yeah. Speaking of just kind of the Kang of it all, Tiki, why don't you hit him with the Last Jedi thing of this episode?
Yeah, I mean, besides the Owen Wilson death, this is the thing that really sticks out to me, because throughout the first 3 episodes, all Loki wants to do is meet the Timekeepers, man. He's so confident that he can just go in and just sweet talk his way through the Timekeepers, and then nope, they're basically Chuck E. Cheese animatronics.
Yep, they're the great and powerful Oz figureheads that we built up.
Yeah. I don't know, just something about that. That might be the best reveal of the whole season. And you know what? I'm proud of the audience for not just crying like, "Oh, that's bullshit."
To be fair, we had a show where we called it all we go up against are aliens, androids, and wizards. So we
right.
kind of it's kind of part of the course.
So yeah, but it's absolutely definitely one of the better moments of the show. And then also for on the Ravonna side of things, I've cited this moment before, but I still think it's really great. It's to me the best Ravonna moment of the show, where Sylvie in the elevator asks, like, why did you take me? What was the Nexus event? And she's like, I don't remember.
We added so much great character to Sylvie with that moment, in that, she's, and Ravonna as well. It's, like Sylvie, she's been on the run, like she's lived through 1,000 worlds. ending, and all to get like all this rage directed at the TVA, who are so bureaucratic. They don't even remember why. It's a great hint at the Kang stuff, at the He Who Remains of it all, is that it's just such an arbitrary choice, in that it really, there's no like real vitriol or like kind of purpose behind it. It's just, well, it's ones and zeros on the docket. This just has to happen. We don't care. We don't have feelings.
Right.
Yeah. B-15, however, has all the feels and give you all the feels when she's like, I look happy. Seriously, that was such a great moment. B-15 rocked in this show, man.
She absolutely kind of like stole the supporting character role for sure.
Yeah. So our post-credit scene takes us into the next episode.
Yeah. So Journey into Mystery, I mean, I feel like it's probably the fan favorite episode. Is that fair to say?
Well, it's definitely my favorite along with the pilot, so yeah, I'd agree with that sentiment. Yeah.
I mean, what more do you want? It doesn't have as many like mind-blowing twists as the last one does, but it's got alligator Loki, man.
It would also, yeah.
Richard Grant as classic Loki.
Yeah. I loved classic Loki so much.
I really think Richard E. Grant had a perfect death scene in this episode. I really feel like he was a great one-episode wonder for the MCU. I'm
still just so moved by what we did with his death, too. Like, the fact that, he was... I'm sorry, you go on.
Well, I really like, in his moment, I really love how his face just looks so much like Hiddleston. Like, he's got that Tom Hiddleston kind of like, like impish grin to a T in that last moment. And I don't know, just visually, I think that just says it all. The arc on that character was so good because we hit his backstory, which essentially is, okay, how Loki's really intrigued by this guy because he's old, which means he did not die by Thanos' hand. How did he do that? We're okay, made an illusion because he's all magic versus knives and daggers. Where like, okay, so I survived, but I was alone. I was the god of outcast of it all. I missed my brother. I just love just the genuineness. Like, I missed my brother, and I wanted to go see him. And like, he dared the change, and the TVA got him. It's like any Loki who dares the change is doomed to be kind of usurped by, to go up against the status quo in the assigned role is going to be usurped by the TVA, and his fate being. On the rewatch, Mobius kind of inspires him. I really like this, where I love Mobius's role in the whole series, that he inspires all Lokis in a way, because he literally all the Lokis, like maybe even Alligator Loki, who knows? But he inspired Kid and Classic Loki when he basically told him about his choice to change and turn against the TVA, despite them kind of like mapping out his whole purpose of his glorious purpose, if you will, and that inspires this beautiful moment of Classic Loki recreating Asgard, the home that he wanted to visit to see his brother again. And he did it one last time. He recreated, and that was his ending. He got to see home again, then do something good, to be heroic. Glorious purpose. It was a beautiful arc in the episode. I think that's fundamentally that's why I love episode 5. And everything else, like we get Throg and we get Thanos Copter, we get all sorts of great Easter eggs. And President Loki. Throg was wonderful. I kind of lost my shit seeing that.
And voiced by Chris Hemsworth, the one he yells. That's Chris Hemsworth.
Awesome. One of my favorite scenes is the Bermuda Triangle moment with the battleship.
Yeah, that's cool too. I just love the logic that when they prune something and when they do the little reset charge, that reset charge takes a whole lot more than just one person. So all that stuff has to go somewhere. Yeah. And let's see. I also, but the moment that really strikes a chord with me is Kid Loki. Why Kid Loki's the boss? Why is he calling the shots? I killed Thor. It's like, that's an awesome moment. It tells you everything you need to know about this kid.
Yeah,
like, okay, killed Thor. That's why he's the boss. Like,
I've heard of. I remember when the episode came out, a fan theory that was bandied about was that Kid Loki, he didn't intentionally kill his brother. You know how Thor Ragnarok, there's the whole prank thing about like he becomes a snake and then stabs Thor.
Yeah,
and it might be like, oh, he can try to do a prank and accidentally kill Thor.
That's a good idea.
Yeah,
it's interesting. Yeah, and of course, the Super Billy spoke to this earlier in the comments. President Loki. So President Loki is very much the sinister and cocky Loki. Of course, he loses his hand like full on Captain Hook. We Captain Hooked him, lost his hand.
Yes.
which is great. And yeah, I mean, Superbilly mentioned earlier, I'm going to round it off here, is that he essentially said that, he was expecting more of like a sinister Loki. Because you go off the trailer, you think that is our Loki. And I called that, no, that might be a variant. After that first episode, oh my God, that could be the variant Loki in question, that being our bad guy Loki.
Uh-huh.
I hope he comes back in season 2. I really do, because I like President Loki.
I mean, the idea of him has a lot of potential.
Honestly, it's that whole sequence. It's the idea that, again, our Loki yet again gets a big kind of awakening by seeing all these variants of himself, but more so gets to see, like, they all turn on each other. They all stab each other in the back, which really informs the meaningful setup for the finale, which is, I can't be trusted. He objectively sees from his own eyes, like, yeah, I really can't be trusted. I stabbed literally myself in the back, like in this whole giant, crazy sequence. So when he says that to her in the finale,
or bite his arm off.
Yeah, or bite his hand off. Yeah, do all sorts of crazy stuff. I mean, we have that beautiful scene with them, like the little sweet moment with them with the blanket, and just her mocking, like it's more like a tablecloth than a blanket, and it's this whole like. Can I? How do I know you won't betray me? Like, can I trust you? It's just like that. It's a nice. I won't betray you.
I love the scene where Mobius is like, "How do you know this alligator's a Loki?" It's like, he's green. I was like, well, that doesn't make, just because he's green doesn't make him a Loki. But then it's like, it would be a very Loki thing to try to make people feel like you're not actually a Loki.
Yeah, that means he's a good liar.
All right, can I just say I really would have liked just a whole extended scene of just that conversation.
Yeah. Right.
All right.
Yeah, we had the man hug in here, which is great. Between Loki and
the man hug is fucking epic.
It was, and of course, just the beautiful touch that Owen Wilson had to, like, "You're my favorite," saying it to Sylvie, because he bonded with Sylvie too, and he's like taking a little knock at the Loki that gives him trouble, but he loves him.
All right.
Yeah.
Anything else on this episode?
Well, yeah, we had the Miss Minutes scene. We already kind of talked about that. Just the great tension over, like, Miss Minutes is stalling for time, and this whole lie about there's a ship that's going to take us to the void and we can work together. It's like just a great bit of, like, Sylvie goes on a great little odyssey going from the TVA to finding Loki in the void. It's good stuff. Just the episode has so much honestly, it's the best, like, it's the best oneer of an episode. Like this in the pilot. I think they do just kind of, they're very self-explanatory and give you like an adventure in your money's worth. Like there's kind of a beginning, middle, end, so to speak.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So let's see. Episode 5 in the entire season in a microcosm. It represents all the show's virtues and failings. I could get behind that to a certain extent. I mean, I don't necessarily think there's a lot wrong with episode 5, but I do agree with your point, Super Billy, that I wish we got a little bit more with the Loki variants. But, I don't know. I think with what we got, the Richard E. Grant stuff was probably, it was obviously at the writer's forefront, and I think it paid off rather well. So, all right. So that brings us into the finale, which, as you guys know, outside of the missed minutes of it all, not a big fan of. I'm just not. Just didn't work for me personally.
Well, it worked for me.
All right. I mean, that's totally fair, man. That's totally fair.
Yeah. So, oh boy, where to start? I guess with the He Who Remains of it all, right?
I guess. I mean, we already know how awesome the missed minutes jump scare is. So.
Right. That's what I'm saying. We already kind of talked through the Miss Minutes thing. So, yeah, I'll just say it here. So the whole He Remains thing, I really like how we handled the Kang setup in this season. I really do. Like, just I'll break down like this, like 3 points. Very simple. So, one, we finally did a direct payoff to the setup versus like the whole Mephisto and the Power Broker mystery of it all. And that was a clever thing this show did, where we thought the Lady Loki was going to be our big mystery, when really it was like, okay, who's at the end of the time Citadel? And two, like that we tied I like that we tied things into the TVA lore, in which, the guy in the comics, the guy who runs the TVA, I'm not going to claim like I knew this or anything, but it's, it's a, it's a no name. It's pretty much just a guy who is like, he who remains. It's an old guy who runs basically he's at the end of time. That's pretty much that whole guy's shtick. It's like, he's a one and done. Not a whole lot there for that guy. So, and thirdly, I just love that it really tracks. And then we do, in the comics, there's a Council of Kangs, which essentially is like the whole slew of Kang variants they talked about at the end of the episode, which tracks that there are so many variants, and we have.
I think maybe I would have been a little bit more excited for this idea if, like, maybe visually we would have seen a little bit more of it, like visually, if we would have seen at least like what one more evil version of Kang would have looked like. I don't know.
I mean, you may very well be right. I think there was a budgetary constraint if they wanted to show that, but also like you have to have a Kang get from point A to point B, and then we have a statue of it though, so we kind of see
even a budgetary constraint. Just literally have like a shot of the actor looking more menacing.
We might have to have a blue face, Tiki. That's my point. Like, that might be the effect, though.
The reason why. Fair. So, I think the reason why the show didn't sort of go with what you're looking for, because I think my understanding is, at least in regards to the behind the scenes for the show, Jonathan Majors was just cast for just the part of He Who Remains, but he does such, at least in the eyes of Marvel, specifically Sarah Haley Finn, does such a good job in his performance that they then had him be casted for the part of Kang as well. So I think the way it's written, there just wasn't a space for for the actor to do his Kang thing, because he was just originally cast as He Who Remains.
Then the whole episode shouldn't have revolved around him then. I don't know.
Well, he's kind of our payoff, though. We kind of need him, though.
I feel like Owen Wilson was half of the storyline I wanted to see for the finale, and he got fuck all to do. That's what I'm saying.
Well, you're not wrong in that we could have gotten more Mobius for sure, but I mean, I don't know, maybe they're saving like the big jet ski payoff.
The conversation, man, it's just... I don't know. I'm sorry, guys. I don't mean to sound frustrated and defensive. I just like I've watched it multiple times, and I just like it doesn't compel me. Like, for some reason, for me, it's just like, and I'm someone who loves a good conversation scene, but like I don't know. There's something with what the actor's doing. Like I don't really get the vibe of the actor. Dragon Take a Shot, I think there's kind of a tone issue going on where he's like somewhere between intimidating and super duper kooky, and that just doesn't vibe for me at all. I don't know, man. I feel like I'm on a different planet here. I feel like most people love it, but to me it really kind of killed a lot of my enthusiasm for the whole show. I hate to say that, but to me, it really just kind of landed with a thud. And I know that's an unpopular thing to say. I know I'm not, I know you guys disagree, but I just gotta kind of, say my piece here, because like I said, I rewatched this whole show, with the hope that this episode would pay off a little bit more. And it just doesn't. It's just like, it's a very blatant, like, hey kids, this is, like Doctor Strange 2, Quantum Mania, eventually, like it feels like an ad more than it feels like a finale to me. I don't know. There's just something about it that just doesn't land. I'm sorry, guys.
Well, something to say though, because you're right. In that Mobius and Ravonna scene here, it does gonna fall literally as Mobius falls. It kind of falls on deaf ears, but I do like the lead up in 4 when we had their scene together, where we have just the idea that, okay, so they both have had very interesting interactions with Loki's, and they both have approached them in very diverging directions, where our Mobius helped a Loki versus just the cold callous, like, no, it's just I'm just punching a time clock. I don't care that it's a kid. I'm still going to condemn this child. So it just kind of sets their paths. And just the fact that they kind of have like, they've had this relationship. They've had just kind of like this, this kind of like co-workership thing, where it's like they kind of meet each other, and then she feels so betrayed. Like, how you picked a Loki over me? We've worked together for centuries. We can't even keep track of how long we know each other. You picked the Loki. So I think Ravonna, came alive, but we didn't really give her like a great scene with Mobius here. B-15 had the big scene here where she had like the big smoking gun moment, proving that all the TVA are all variants. Which, of course, when you realize, oh my god, we're pruning ourselves, this is madness. By visiting the teacher variant of Ravonna, like, oh, proof in the pudding. Ravonna, the Judge Runslayer, how can she be here and there?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so I think B-15 kind of got Mobius' thunder there, but I'm still on the air of just I'm hoping we're gonna pay Mobius off in the second half, which I won't know until I see it. So I don't know. I'm reserving judgment. But here's what I do like though. I love, just speaking to the Kang of it all, specifically the Kang, is that I think we got our cake and we ate it too. I think we kind of got to have our cake and eat it too. And that, okay, so we have a kind of a proto Kang here, and it's more so a variant, which we've experienced all sorts of variants here. And the fact that we got like a great backstory on how we're going to get Kang, and the whole 31st, like he was a 31st century variant that discovered the multiverse. It was all prosperity and everything, and then it just, he used Goliath to maintain order. And what I really took away from it, especially on the rewatch, is he's the cocky, carefree Kevin Feige of the MCU, of the timeline here. He's just it's all arbitrary. He doesn't care what happens.
Yes.
That's why he's all kooky. He doesn't care what happens so long as it fits in one timeline. That's why Sylvie's so ticked off at him. Like, it doesn't matter. I mean, just you stuck with the one Loki you picked, and screw my life. That's why she kills him.
The thing is that this performance would have been better had Jonathan Majors, he Who Remains, wore a baseball cap.
Oh god, it would have been funny.
No, but I think there's the whole point. I think I can understand where Tiki's coming from. I mean, I like the performance, and I for me, my take in regards to why it is that he's so kooky is like, if you're someone who's had to constantly like destroy timelines and destroy versions of yourself and like live for God knows how many years, and you're just isolated, and your only form of communication really is an animated clock voiced by Tara Strong. You can't help but be a little bit, quirky.
I got that. The performance just didn't land with me. I got what they were trying to do with it.
Well, I won't know until I see it. I'd like to think that
it didn't feel like a realistic kind of crazy to me. It felt like an actor mugging for the camera kind of crazy, if that makes sense.
I mean, fair enough. I'm hoping what happens though is we're going to see him when he plays Kang. We're going to get like a diametrically opposite performance of that, which could be really interesting. Which I think he's absolutely capable of, seeing what he's done in stuff like Lovecraft Country. But I don't know. We'll see. I mean, the moment where his performance really came alive for me, even if it is kind of like very Willy Wonka, very Mr. Wizard, which is kind of like, the whole like guy who's just been kind of at the end of time. The threshold moment is what I love. I love how the performance, he gets like the gleeful intrigue on his face of he just realizes, there's the gambit, there's the choice right now. You either stifling order or cataclysmic chaos. You kill me, I'm going to be replaced, and you get like the multiversal war, or you guys take over. And just the fact that once the threshold passes, he does not know what's going to happen. And he's so excited. He's so relieved after, I've known everything up to this moment, but I don't know what's going to happen next. And he's just so, that's where it just came alive for me. He's going to have like the heartbreaking kind of fight between, Sylvie and Loki. He's like, oh no, these two crazy kids. And they were bonding and everything. And it boils down to, as Loki said, Sylvie can't trust, Loki can't be trusted. It's oil and water in that regard. Like they're doomed.
Here.
Yeah. So, Rohit, how do you feel about the ending?
I really do like where things end off. Like, where the universe comes from a character place. And the second season, I'm really interested to see where Sylvie's headspace is at in regards to whether she regrets her decision, how does Loki feel in being sort of this, foreign environment where people don't know who he is, and how does he adapt to that? So I appreciated what I really liked about the ending was that it wasn't a straight up like, oh, how in WandaVision it was Wanda versus Agatha, traditional Marvel like MCU fight, and then in Falcon the Winter Soldier it was like Carly versus Sam, traditional MCU fight. And this like the fight is just a regular like sword fight that doesn't really last that long and doesn't drag out, but it's just simply a conversation that for me really showcased sort of the whole thesis about free will, predetermination, and the choices that one wishes to make. But if they were to make it, then all these other predetermined events can spiral so much chaos. And what sort of freedom can one have if there's such negative consequences? And I think that the ending, the way things capped off, it really stayed true.
You know what, Ryan? I'm sorry. I'm just a dumbass. I don't know. I can't like. I can't. I just don't. I'm sorry.
Okay, so Red, I'm sorry. To your point, I was gonna bring up. I love that. It's very on brand for Loki because his whole thing ever since Avengers has been about freedom and like the whole free will is the grand illusion. And we called this in the pilot. The whole thing of like he wants to rule because humanity, they want to be ruled. They want someone to outline the rules and everything because they want they lack free will. Or
honestly, what you guys are throwing out here is like way beyond my pay grade when it comes to thinking about this show. Like to me, this show is just like. It's just kind of like popcorn entertainment with a layer of cool sci-fi aesthetic to it. Like I'm not breaking it down this show on a philosophical level the same way I would like a like an Oscar caliber movie or something like that. I'm sorry. I'm literally not on the same wavelength with this show as you guys are, I guess.
Well, that's fine. I mean, I just think I do like the like what we have is I like that we just simply like the multiverse of madness thing. Like, we get to see it versus like hinting at it's gonna happen next. We see the event happen. Oh, Tika, we got a super chat.
Oh, we do?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Well, geez, thank you so much, Super Billy. You're the first super chat we've ever gotten, so I very much appreciate that. Wow. Okay. Let's see. Given that the HWR's motivation is a little different from the TVA's motivation, why the ruse? Why create the timekeepers? Why lie to the variants? Honestly, Super Billy, what I was just saying about like the not thinking too far ahead with this stuff, I gotta be honest, I'm kind of there. Like I haven't really thought about like why the ruse, but go ahead, Rohit.
So to the best of my understanding, and I think He Who Remains is like, even though he's kooky, even though it's a little bit out there, like he's not, at least in my view, he's not an idiot. And I think the whole point of having the timekeepers and the variants, because the thing is, there's sort of a cynical thing about how even if there's no grand purpose, people do want to have like a purpose, a glorious purpose, like and making this timekeepers, this whole mythology, it gives this sort of weight, and it motivates these variants to do the things that He Who Remains wants them to do. But because if you were to be truthfully honest, like that's not I'm just trying to have you keep other bad versions of myself from take over the timeline. It's not as big of a motivator. There's not as big sense of identity and purpose as we're wanting to keep order in the universe and keep the sacred timeline. And so that's just sort of holy crusade to preserve time for always is sort of what it's the big lie that helps keep working for in his favor, but it gives purpose to all the TVA agents.
Yeah, it's like he doesn't want to like if he just tells him point blank what it is. I think you're going to have the philosophical questions that Sylvie's kind of having right now, trying to kill him, and he wants to avoid that at least at that time. Like all the variants, like wait, you're having us kill ourselves? why we do that, and the whole like why create the timekeepers. Well, again, if it's just this whole okay, so it's one guy. Well, we want to know about this one guy. Why is he so important? Versus like okay, there are these cosmic beings that like they're all floaty and menacing. And I mean, honestly, I think a lot comes from like he just kind of mythologized it versus just kind of the truth and going into the whole multiverse thing, which. I don't know. I think just keeping it to something more digestible kind of served its purposes more. That's at least the way I would look at it. I think that's. Yeah, I mean things kind of lined up with the TVA's mission statement. Just it's a little bit more kind of zhuzhed up as like kind of a grander purpose for how we're kind of serving the greater whole of the universe.
Right.
But yeah, but again, so speaking to like the Whamma Blamma kind of final image of it all, before we have like the Kang, not so much the Kang statue. I mentioned I love like the design of the time tech and everything when he goes through the backstory, the Kinsuki design. And Kinsuki is, I think, a great symbol for the show, and as well as the multiverse of madness kind of final image of all the branching timelines and everything. Where Kinsuki, for those who may not be aware, it's this Japanese art style, like you have like these statues fused together with gold. And when basically it's you're stronger after the break, you're stronger with your trauma and your flaws, and I think that really. That one fits Loki's character, but also fits, I think, the message, which is we need variance. We don't need the prune variance. There's nothing we should embrace the differences and everything. I think that's where the next phase is going. Perhaps it's that might be where we're heading. And again, it's such it's the great cause and effect thing that we have something that really clicks, not just so much like okay, Wanda's going to be doing something that's going to pay off. In Doctor Strange 2, it's like we get to see essentially the big problem of Doctor Strange 2 unfold before our eyes in a really big, bombastic way. And also, Kang's on the way. We got a big menacing statue of him. He's the boss now.
All right, guys, can we get through spec? I'm sorry, I feel like we're kind of this stream is going on a little too long. So,
yeah, sure.
Okay. I mean, obviously, I feel like this whole thing's going to have a ramification on the multiverse of madness. Obviously, like outside of that, again, I just feel like you guys are kind of like leapfrogging me as far as like your deep philosophical thinking on the show, which is not a bad thing at all. It's just kind of beyond where I'm at with this show. I'm not really thinking about this show in these sort of like heavy terms. So I am very curious to see where Loki's gonna be in Multiverse of Madness. Like, is Mobius gonna pop up? Like, because at this point I'm having a hard time picturing Loki. Like, if Loki I guess my biggest question with Multiverse of Madness, I guess, is like if Loki pops up there, which we're pretty sure he will. Assuming it's not just a Loki variant, assuming it's this Loki that we've been following, like how does he get away from how are we gonna figure out the transition from the cliffhanger at the end of this season into him during Multiverse of Madness? You know what I mean? Like how are we gonna kind of fill in the blanks there? Because it's a pretty big damn cliffhanger.
I think when in doubt, we could just pull a simple thing like like Thor from the Avengers, where Father summoned all this dark magic to take me there. I mean, not more so, and like he swiped the time pad and he pops up in Doctor Strange too, like a temp pad.
Fair enough.
I mean, look, I'm just speculating as how we might do it. I'm pretty sure.
It'd be also pretty cool to see Doctor Strange go to the TVA.
There you go. It's the better way of doing it. There you go. That's a better way of getting from point A to point B on that one. Where I mean, here's the thing. From what I understand, Loki season 2 that can only be timed to I imagine will be pre or post Ant-Man the Wasp is like a tie and like, hey, watch Loki and then go see Ant-Man the Wasp, which has the big Kang thing, which kind of gets us there. It's a question of the real question is how big a role, if a role at all, will Kang have in Multiverse of Madness? I think that's the real question because I mean,
right? I think he's probably going to be hinted at, but I don't think we're going to see much of him. I've said this before, but I think at the very most we might get him in kind of like a Thanos in the original Guardians of the Galaxy kind of role where he's there, he's present, but he's not like the main focus by any means. Yeah,
a theory occurred to me rewatching it here. Speaking of Multiverse of Madness, I wonder if the question of can we Can we defeat Kang in a Disney Plus show versus a movie? Which makes me think like we're gonna kind of deal with the Kang situation like season 2 Loki. We beat Kang or something, which I don't find as likely. What I think we're building with Kang perhaps is that could Multiverse of Madness culminate in Secret Wars? Not I'm not saying we do it there, but I'm saying what if like we tee up a Secret Wars event like down the line, basically instead of the Beyonder, the guy who like brings all these heroes from all over the globe, which in this case could be variants and what if creations and all sorts like different versions, like which is the cool factor of Secret's like, oh my god, look at all the random heroes we just picked for our battle here. What if it was Kang instead of the Beyonder? What do you think?
Going to have Kang be the stand-in
for the Beyonder.
For the Beyonder in Secret Wars.
Yeah.
I think here's sort of my theory. I just thought of this, after several days of just thinking about what the Phase 4, 5, or 6 story would be. I think what would happen is that, we would have a typical Avengers movie, but you deal with sort of the Dark Avengers as Thunderbolts. And I don't know if in that movie or in the subsequent like Avengers 6 movie or whatever, like they get defeated by the Dark Avengers / Thunderbolts, and then Kang comes in and just defeats the Thunderbolts, and then because of their defeat and Kang sort of taking over the world or taking over time, then the Avengers come back reborn, and the event, like the big Avengers movie then isn't Avengers Secret War, but more like Avengers Heroes Reborn or Avengers Forever, where you have Avengers from all different time periods, and then you can have like Evans and Downey and Johansson. Well, I don't know if Johansson will come back a lot of what happened.
Yeah, I don't think I would count on like the returning favorites in this case. I don't know. But it's an interesting theory that with the Thunderbolts of it all. That sounds interesting.
What I'm thinking is like the Thunderbolts and their presence would be a disruptive factor and could lead to the Avengers not necessarily being disbanded, but being taken out of the table, and that's what leads to Kang easily taking over the world or whatever, or daily damage to the world. Just basically sort of mirroring what happens in the Infinity Saga, but not exactly a 1-to-1.
Sure. All right, so I think one thing we can all agree on, Mobius needs a jet ski in season 2 of Loki, and I like to think that's Loki's way of catching him up and basically saying, remember, we're buddies. Here's your jet ski. You're drawn to this thing. That's what I like.
I can see that. I can see that.
So that's what I'm saying. That's my hope for. That's why we're saving the jet ski thing. The jet ski is going to be his big key to kind of getting Mobius back on his side. That's my big theory for 2. But we'll see.
Defeats Kang in a jet ski race.
That would it'd be like that '60s Batman episode where you have it's like the '60s Batman and the Joker having that surfing contest. Also, Tiki, another super chat.
What?
No, there's another super chat.
Oh, for real? Wow.
Yeah, go on, read it. Put it up there.
Okay, Kang for $2 says, is Kang or Super Billy? I'm sorry,
he's not Kang.
We don't have Kang in the comments here. My bad.
As far as we know. Super
Billy says, is Kang being positioned? Yeah, I would say it's pretty safe to say he's being positioned as the next Thanos, right, guys?
Yeah, he's got to be. Yeah, of course, yeah.
I want to say yes, but I feel like really Doctor Doom is like the next like level Thanos threat, and like Kang, I think like he's not like to be a multi phase threat. I think he could last like a phase or two, and then whether by his demise or change of circumstance.
Let me ask you this: Could you see Doctor Doom being like the fan favorite, like a Loki, like the new Loki, and Kang as the Thanos?
I don't know about that.
I think it's the other way around. If anything, I wouldn't put it past Marvel, where like, all right, you have Kang as a bad guy, Kang the Conqueror, and then he gets killed or defeated, but Jonathan Majors just comes back as like a heroic version of Kang, called Kang the Liberator, and then he teams up with the Avengers to like take on Doom.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very excited for Doctor Doom. It's a question if I assume we got to get him in that Fantastic Four because he's
guys, we're kind of drifting off of the Loki
Sure.
Loki stuff here. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, what was a super
I don't
chat
mean to
though,
be a
Tiki?
jerk. We need to kind of get back on point here.
All right, fine. Well, okay. Do you have any other Loki season 2 spec then?
I'm sorry. I just think this is like practically. I don't know, man. I'm interested in what Ravona's up to, I guess.
Yep, she does tie into Kang in a big way. Like Kang is sometimes it's a love story. Some that they might go a different way with it, but yeah, she's been given some coordinates by Miss Minute, so she's definitely there's a destination in mind, I'm sure.
I would hope season 2 would have maybe a few more procedural, elements or episodes. I would be curious how the TVA would operate differently with Kang being in charge. Like maybe they're a little bit more like when they prune a timeline, it's a little bit more brutal and not as like straightforward as just like putting a grenade and the things are being extinguished.
Yeah, maybe they're conquering time. What if that's who he's turned to his own private army or something? I don't know. All right, well, yeah, I think that's about it, guys. Right?
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, big thanks to Super Billy in the comments. Dude, you literally made history. You were our very first super chat. So
Yeah.
like honestly, Super Billy, I'm never gonna forget that. Like we've worked so freaking hard to get to the point of having monetization. So that's a big milestone for us. I appreciate it way more than the $7 on its own can begin to tell you. So really, really, really gracious for that.
You get another super chat.
Oh my god. Well, hope that for season 2 we'll focus more on Loki and his world. By that you mean Asgard, I assume?
Yeah, I imagine. Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that just because I feel like we got a lot of groundwork to cover for season 2 as far as the TVA goes. Maybe if they didn't do something like erasing one of the main characters' memory, we would have had a little bit more time. But anyways,
I mean, honestly, the simple thing I'd like to see him in the costume again, which is the one thing we took away this season. Though we did not put him in the costume ever since that first episode.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
Says you're welcome, fellas. Thank you, sir.
All right. So I think that's all she wrote. Like I said, big thanks to Super Billy. Rohit, dude, you are thinking about this show on another level, and I'm impressed. I apologize that I can't keep up with you, bro.
No apologies needed, Tiki. Just glad to have fruitful and interesting conversations with you guys as always.
For sure. So, like towards the end there, I was like, okay, I don't know about Secret Wars. This is Greek to me, dude. but yeah, Rohit, always a blast to have you on. Thanks so much. And all right, well, that'll do it for us this week as we host our remotes. Till the next installment calls for the draw. Mano y mano. Just plus. And us.
Glorious purpose.
Alligator Loki.